Welcome back to Obsessed by Everything Bravo. Thank you for joining in to my podcast about the Real Housewives. And we are going through the Real Housewives in chronological order. My name is Meredith. Um, I have to be honest, I didn't want to record today. I do need to record because this is the only time I have to do it. But I feel very heavy. I feel very sad. Today is the 8th, I think, of January. And so far this week, my country has kidnapped the leader of another country, threatened to overtake another country, and now murdered a woman in her car, all to distract from our leader being in the Epstein files, essentially. And lots of inflammatory things in there that we don't know the extent of. There was a thing about the Lake Michigan. And I know I have a lot of international listeners who are probably curious about what it's like to maybe even just like live in America, and it's terrible. It's sad. We knew this was coming, right? Or things. The thing about it is like you don't know what it is. You just know that it's going to be bad. Like in 2016 when he was elected the first time, I thought he was going to get us in a war. Like I knew thousands and millions of people would die. I did not think it was going to be a mismanaged pandemic. Like I couldn't have predicted that part, right? But it seems like the war is now. It's coming. And it could be a civil war. And I don't know how this is going to look because things are still like really up in the air. But what I need to remind everyone is the reason that I started this podcast was because of the depression I went through last year when he won, and realizing that living in constant fear, living in hate, living in depression was not a way to live. And that every single day we have to wake up and fight against our fascist government. The thing about it is, our government is the most militarized, powerful government in the history of the world ever. And all the other nations that are scared of World War III, they're using that against us, if you understand. Like, what you're scared of, we're already facing and have been, because our police forces are militarized as well. Our military is militarized, and most of the I will stop myself from saying that, but some of the people in those forces join those forces to kill and maim, and it's hard to fight against that. So what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to be a frontline soldier against that army. But what I am going to do is try to bring joy and try to bring happiness, try to bring some perspective to the world. And like I've been saying since the beginning, they cannot control our happiness. If we're happy, if we're joyful, if we're purposeful, if we're living for something outside of the box that they've put us in, we've already beat the fascism. Okay? And what I need to tell everyone to hear, especially if you're outside of the US, is the majority of us are not with this. It's very small but loud people and a lot of bots that you see online. That's the only people that are with this. The majority of us is not with this. And I think what happened yesterday in Minneapolis is really going to turn the tide People are comparing her to, I can't think of the name, but the guy who was killed that started the Boston Tea Party, which started our American Revolution. Almost the exact same scenario. Um, so things are happening. And what we have to do, because we can't all be on the front lines, we can't all be everywhere at once, is we have to continue with our joy and our happiness. And if the Real Housewives bring you happiness, then they bring you happiness. Do you know what I'm saying? If talking about them, if listening about them, if going over the stupid shit that they do is what keeps you from falling over the edge, then that is what it is. If it's not Housewives, if it's your animal, if it's something else, if it's a hobby, if it's your family, uh, you know, if it's trying to predict that there's going to be another episode of Stranger Things to make up for everything that the finale lacked, that's what it is. And you just have to hold on to that, okay? But that's what we have. We just have to keep, we have to like, what was the thing in World War II? Keep calm and carry on. We just have to. That's the only way we can do this. And we just have to understand that there are people that are in charge, there are people that are organizing, and there are people that are fighting. And we just have to continue to keep hope alive. Okay, so now that that is finished, that statement, I would like to get into the episode, okay? So today we're talking about The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 2, Episode 13, entitled Adrienne's Fashion Show. We couldn't come up with anything clever. Adrienne's Fashion Show. I mean, okay, that is what we will see. Okay. So we open up and Lisa Vanderpump, we're doing more wedding stuff. She has come home with a cold, so she doesn't want to kiss anyone, but they're going to be, and everyone's yelling at her because she's late, but they're looking at invitations for Pandora's wedding. So just more wedding stuff. The invitations that they come up with is like this box with like this lid, which has like a very 2011 floral motif on it. I don't know how else to describe it. And it's like an actual box. It's like probably about 1.5 inches thick and like a 10 by 10 box, and inside of it is the invitation. They're going to be $150 per invite. Oh my god. So if you're, I don't know, I can't remember how many people they were inviting, but like, let's say you're inviting 200. That means that you need 50, right? Because, you know, whatever. No, wait. If you need 200, you need 100 invitations. I can't do this math, but it's expensive. I mean, I can't. What's 100 times 150? I don't know. Like I said, it's very heavy. I'm not thinking clearly. We've been sick. I mean, we got all kinds of things going on. It's a lot of money just for the invitations. And of course, the wedding planner guy, he's there. Now, everybody loves the wedding planner guy. I don't want to talk about this wedding anymore. We will see the wedding. But the wedding planner guy, he's like very important. He's very memeable. She, Beverly Hills, whatever. Okay, so now they go back and they're checking out caterers and then like bartenders and drinks. And I'm like, they own a restaurant. Why? What is this? Whatever. So then we go over to Adrienne's, and she tells us for the very first time in the history of this that she has always wanted to have a shoe line. Since she's a little girl, she's wanted to design shoes, and she's been dreaming of this. And so now she's meeting with her team so they can discuss next steps. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so she's designed shoes. No, on this table she has laid out in front of her is just all of her shoes that she owns, that she likes. Like, essentially, she's like, hey, I like this part of this shoe and this part of this shoe and the heel of this shoe, and I like this color. And she's just picking and choosing all the things she likes about shoes she currently owns so someone else can design it. That's not dreaming of a shoe design your whole life. when people say I've been dreaming of being a fashion designer my whole life, they have sketchbooks of shit that they've made up, and they have Barbie fashion plates. You remember Barbie fashion plates? I loved my Barbie fashion plates. Now, do I want to be a fashion designer? No, but I loved. Still wish I had some of those. The early coloring. I mean, it was just that's the type of thing where people are like, I've been dreaming my whole life of being a designer. Adrienne is a businesswoman and she loves shoes, and so she thought there would be an opportunity for her to sell shoes. That's all this is. That's all this is. So anyway, nothing's been designed yet, which is what I'm saying. There is no design, but she wants to set up a fashion show. A fashion show with no fashion. You didn't learn your lesson, babe. So she's organizing a fashion show to benefit a program called Step Up, which she did explain how this benefited women. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where you give women like clothes so they can go on job interviews or something. I don't know. Now there will be real fashions here. This is an actual fashion show with a fashion designer who has fashions. She's just doing shoes. Okay. So that's how it plays out. And she will have one prototype shoe there for everyone to look at. One shoe. I mean, it's a pair, I'm assuming. Okay. So now we go over to Taylor and Russell. And they are in a therapy session with Dr. Sophie. So I need you to understand that Dr. Sophie is giving Taylor individual therapy and group therapy with her husband. That is not ethical, okay? Because Taylor can go to her own therapy session and talk X, Y, and Z about whatever Russell is doing. And then Russell's supposed to come in and be honest, knowing that Dr. Sophie's already heard one side and one side only. That's unethical. I need you to understand this. The other thing is, I really feel like I brushed over the tea party because there was so much explosive things that were going on. What Camille said, like, let's just go over that a little bit. What Camille said was, you know, he hits you, he broke your jaw, he hits you in the head, he gives you black eyes. Camille is telling the audience, I don't know if I explicitly said it, but that Russell is beating her. And I feel like this is something I was alluding to even as far back as last season, but I need you to understand that this is what's happening. Russell was abusive to Taylor for sure. The other thing that was happening is Taylor was telling all the women, and this will come up in this week in a little bit when we talk about a different episode, that the women are not believing her. And I want to maybe push back on that a little bit. I think it's not that they're not believing her. I think that they don't want to outright accuse someone on national television. So there's think about all the boundaries that are crossed here by Taylor telling them this info. And like I said last week, is not only was she telling them, I mean, she was telling Faye, she was telling Dee Dee, she was literally telling anyone. At one point, Lisa Vanderpump says, the first time we met, she told me this. So Taylor was like really making a cry for help. But then it was what Camille was so frustrated with was like, she would, in the same conversation, she would say, it's over. And then she would say, and we're going on a plane. We're going on a private plane. And so it was hard for them to navigate the situation because they're like, is it over? Are you still together? I want to help you, but I can't help you if you're not willing to leave him or you're so happy about being with him. So it was a very difficult situation for the ladies to navigate because they didn't understand, you know, where to take this because, you know, do you want our help or do you want to stay with your husband? And that's kind of what Camille was angry about. But let's go back even further because the reality is Taylor wanted to attack Lisa Vanderpump, and Lisa Vanderpump is so skillful. She was able to flip the narrative and make it about Taylor, which is an incredible feat. I don't know how she does it. I don't know. I'm not that smart. I'm not that smart. I'm not that manipulative. But that's essentially what she did. So I feel like we need to talk about this. But if she's telling everybody on the cast, production crew, who knows? Surely Dr. Sophie knows. So Dr. Sophie knows. Now, one thing about therapists, healthcare worker, teacher, social worker, all these people, we're mandated reporters. I have been in a situation where a patient has confided in me abuse. I have to report that. That is, I can't. Now, the housewives are not, and production and crew is not. Dr. Sophie is. If he's a licensed therapist, then he is. They actually put on his chiron. He's an osteopathic psychiatrist. And I was like, I've literally never heard about it. It's a DO. So it's a medical doctor that is a different, they just don't go to medical school. They go to doctor, I don't know. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's accredited and it is a real thing. So it's not like a woo-woo where, somebody just wakes up and they're like, I'm a life coach. You know what I mean? It's like he went to school. He just didn't go to like traditional medical school. And then he specialized in psychiatry, I'm assuming. But I don't know. So the whole thing is messy. It's convoluted. It's unethical. But I just wanted to state, because I don't know if I ever like explicitly stated, but yes, Russell was abusive to her and everybody knows it and nobody knows what to do about it. So now Taylor and Russell are having marriage counseling with her private psychiatrist. Again, totally unethical. And Taylor is like totally slumped in her chair. Her body language is wild. Like either she's totally exhausted or she just doesn't want to be there at all. Dr. Sophie is like, hey, it's been a long time since you've been here, Russell. And he's like, yeah, I've been busy. We're all busy, bitch. Like, make time. And Taylor tells us, when we started therapy, we made an agreement that we would do everything we could do to keep it together. And if we can't, then we would be apart in the most successful way that we can. Babe, what does that mean? Be apart in the most successful way that you can? That doesn't make any, I think she's probably talking about co-parenting, but it's still, no, this doesn't make any sense. So Dr. Sophie says that he wants to talk about how they are feeling and some of the stuff that's coming up. Okay, obviously also, since the tea party, Taylor's had to tell Russell, hey, the ladies are saying stuff. So he knows. So at this point, Russell, I shudder to wonder how that conversation went. But he knows that the ladies are saying stuff because she's been telling them stuff. Now, what she's been telling them, what she told him, we don't know that. So, Dr. Sophie wants to talk about how they're feeling about some of the stuff that's coming up. And I don't know if it's coming up in general or coming up in therapy, but Taylor says, clearly we love each other. So then the doctor asks, how do you know? And Taylor's like, well, when he's good to me, it's better than anything I can imagine. And so he's like, well, what about when Russell isn't good? And Taylor says, it hurts more than anything in the world. And so he's like, well, how do you deal with that? And then Russell pipes in, doesn't let her answer, and says, the good news is there's nothing that's happened that's so damaging that we couldn't come back from. I mean, I guess you haven't murdered her yet. So yeah, that would be something you couldn't come back from. Other than that, I think we've crossed the line. Like we've crossed the line. You lay hands on somebody, that's something I don't think I could come back from. So then Dr. Sophie, who's like, hey, he answered the question that I asked you, goes to Taylor and says, well, do you agree? And she's like, yes, I wouldn't be sitting here because it's not been easy. And then Russell says, it's been painful addressing the issue, the problems that we've had, the neglect, because I've been at work. And then Dr. Sophie's like, you mean like when you get angry? And Russell says, when I get angry and we argue, it's not easy talking about these things. And so then Dr. Sophie's like, do you know when you're getting angry? And Russell nods and he's like, it's not a nice process. So all this stuff about Russell's anger, Dr. Sophie knows. He's not stating it explicitly on camera, but he knows because he's like, when you get angry, you are dangerous. So Russell says it's not a nice process. Dr. Sophie's like, what do you mean? When it gets loud, you say things you don't mean. And Russell says, you say things you don't mean, you get angry. And Dr. Sophie's like, you get mean and aggressive and you don't mean it. It just becomes nasty. I can understand why you would want to hurt a person. He means emotionally, not physically. And then he's like, you need to figure out what you're angry about and talk about it. Communicate like adults, because only basically children just get angry and react. I don't know why that just struck me as so true. Only children get angry and react. Adults communicate. That's applying to the literal fucking world stage right now. So he's like, you need to figure out what you're angry about and talk about it like an adult. Your communication is the problem here. You need to fix that in order to move forward. And the first step is being able to identify before you're angry before you get angry. There's more psychobabble about this. That's basically the gist of it. Taylor's crying. Dr. Sophie asks why she's crying, and she says she's ready for the hard part to be over and for the happiness to start. The happiness to start. Most people would say, I'm ready to get back to a place where we're happy, or I'm ready to get back to XYZ when we were happy. She says she's ready for the happiness to start. And again, I've said this before. I've said this to people in my real life. Your dating is the time that you're dating. That's how he's going to treat you the best there, because he's courting you, right? And not to say like, oh, everybody's a piece of shit. But what I'm saying is, if he treats you like shit when you're dating, it's only going to get worse. If he treats you like a queen, it's only going to get better. Do you know what I'm saying? But if your dating life and he is making you miserable, you're crying all the time, you're waiting for things to just get better. Only if I can change him, he'll just get better. That's not going to work. You're just setting yourself up for an entire life full of misery. Leave that man before you, God forbid, get pregnant or sign any kind of legal paperwork with him. Do not buy houses with these people. Do not get apartments with these people. Do not intertwine your life so far that you cannot get out of it without deep financial hardships. If he makes you upset and cry and your relationship is toxic, get out. That's it. She's still waiting for happiness. They've been married for 6 fucking years. Imagine, and not only, I mean, let's remove the abuse. Whatever it is, they're toxic. Obviously this guy's an asshole. They're toxic. She needs to leave. They can't, because she has a child. That's really what's kind of the crux here. And she, don't put yourself in this kind of situation, is what I'm telling you, listener. So Russell says, it's amazing. Oh my God. What he says here is so cold. It's amazing what a little respect and common courtesy will get you. Like, he's like, well, when she gives me respect, then I treat her well. But that's not true, because you're an abusive narcissist. So the rules are constantly changing, because what is respectful one day sets you off the next day. That's the problem with these type of relationships. And so Dr. Sophie is like, and self-control. Like, again, act like an adult and control yourself. And then Russell says, and it's amazing how just the opposite can destroy. The underlying context of this conversation, knowing that he beats the shit out of her, knowing that as viewers, knowing he's already dead, it's fucking crazy. Okay? Taylor goes, we just want to start with a clean slate and move forward. And Dr. Sophie's like, I can appreciate that sentiment, but that's immature. that just made me laugh. But this conversation is so wild, and it's so impactful to like get a little sense of Taylor, of her mindset, why she's continuing to do this, because I really feel like, remember, we're talking about 2011. And like I said before, we haven't had the Me Too movement. We haven't said we're going to believe all women. We don't understand a lot of this stuff because it really wasn't portrayed. Like, when you see a woman before this who was abused by her husband, they always seem so weak and meek and like they're stuck in the house. That's not how Taylor is. Taylor's on television. Taylor's a businesswoman. Taylor is dynamic in all of her other relationships. Like, truly, Taylor last year wanted Adrienne to be there. She somehow thought that Adrienne being in New York would have stopped the fighting. But then when we get from the dinner party from hell, Taylor's the one who stopped the fighting. When we get to the game night party, Taylor's the one who stopped the fighting. So she can do this in all of their situations. She's a strong woman. She stands in her convictions. She's trying to go toe to toe with Lisa Vanderpump. In all the ways, in all other facets, she is the strong woman. But in this way, she's not. She's stuck. She's being abused. She's being torn down. And this is what is so interesting about this time period, but also about Housewives. And when I say we get a 360 view of somebody, because we're not just seeing that woman on, with a black eye, struggling, cowering in the corner. We're seeing a strong woman who's also dealing with that. And that reframed domestic violence in the collective consciousness, in our brains. Because if it could happen to her, well, it could happen to me if the right circumstances, right? And it can happen to anybody. It reframed it in our brain and totally changed the conversation. And I'm not saying Taylor being on TV, changed everything. What I'm saying, it was a step on the ladder for us to be open to talk about domestic violence and, sexual assault and all of the other things. It was just another step on the rung. And it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't seen this, if we wouldn't have seen not just this scene, but just Taylor as a whole, as a person, knowing her and all these other facets. I don't think so. And I just think that this conversation was like so interesting because she's really trying. She's really wanting to make it work. And she's trying to change herself to make it work. Do everything she can to make her marriage work. And Russell's not. And also just the sort of like magical thinking that she's having is like, oh, if this one thing were to change, it'd all be perfect. Clearly that's not the case. And I just find that this is what we're dealing with is just like a narcissistic abuser. And that's like literally, that's why I think this is like so, the geopolitical of it all is also currently we as America is dealing with a narcissistic abuser. And we're trying to figure it out. But I don't think collectively we've ever had to, I've never had to deal with a narcissistic abuser. I don't know what to do. And like the things that you would normally do, like normally when you're dealing with a narcissist, they teach you to gray rock, which, even though I've never had a narcissistic abuser, I have been like systematically abused just as a nurse. And so gray rocking is where you just don't respond. You just like, you're a rock. And so they say all kinds of stuff to you and you're just like, okay. In fact, we will see that at the white party. Actually, maybe next week we'll talk about it. Brandy does it perfectly. I'll point it out. But it's just like they're screaming abuse at you and you're just like, okay. You know what I mean? They're saying all this stuff to you and you just don't react because what they want is reaction. And so I have over the years been able to hone people, and not on purpose, but people just say all kinds of out of pocket shit to a nurse. And I just have no response. I just am like, okay, I'm just going to keep moving forward because there is nothing that I could say that would be, like you say one thing, they're going to fly off the handle at you. You say another thing, they're going to go into tears. So there is no response. Like you can't get in trouble and you don't want to make someone feel bad. And I know it's personally not directed at me. I'm just like the vessel that they're using to, get rid of their frustration. But it's still just like, what the fuck, sometimes. But yeah, we're all collectively, and not just America, but like the world, we all are in a toxic relationship with a narcissistic abuser at this point. And we're all trying to figure out how to deal with that. And it's tough because we can't gray rock when they're murdering people and taking over countries. So it's like, what do you do? I don't know. All right, so we go back to Lisa's. They're still doing all the tastings. They're picking food, talking about a dress designer that they want to use. There's some kind of cotton candy dessert, and they're like, "Oh, we can't have that if Taylor's coming." And Lisa's like, "Oh, she's coming. We're good now." And then Pandora says, "Every time that your friend," she's basically like, "I don't want them coming to my wedding. Every time your friends get together, it's a battle. And Daddy told me that your tea party was a disaster. I'm not having a showdown at my wedding." And then Jason goes, "Well, it could be funny at the wedding." And Lisa tells us that Pandora has some reservations about her friends. And if they get out of control, they'll fill my size 7 straight up their jacksie. I don't know what a jacksie is. I'm guessing a butt. Okay, so now Kyle is meeting Brandy out for a manicure. Kyle tells us that Taylor's the one who organized these manicures, but now she's bailing on at the last minute. So she gets there and she meets Brandy and she's like, "Hey, Taylor's not coming." And Brandy's like, "Well, that's cool. It'll give us a chance to talk," which is kind of nice. So Kyle says, I decided to say with Brandy because it gives us a chance to move past all this for the sake of the group. So they start chit-chatting and they talk about Brandy's marriage and how he left her after 13 years and that he had met Leanne on a movie set they were doing. And Brandy said, it was sad and her whole world got taken away from her. Kyle says, "I'm fine with Brandy now. I'm moving on. I don't want any problems with my life. I'll let Kim deal with Brandy if she wants to." So then Kyle asked her, "What did you think about the seance?" And Brandy's like, "It freaked me out a little bit. I was worried about seeing everyone after game night, but at least it got it out of the way." And then I was thinking, but you saw everybody at the charity function and I feel like there was the spa day. You've seen everybody since then. I don't know. So then Brandy is like, she tells us that she thinks that maybe this one-on-one was good because Kyle is starting to understand her a little bit. So Brandy's like, "I'm thinking about having an event and I want to go. My friend has this beautiful house in Malibu. We can watch the sun go down, but I need your advice because I want to do something fun, but I can't do a lot because of my broken foot." And so she's like, "Well, I was thinking about having this lady that comes over and teach people how to do blowjobs." And I would thought that maybe that would be something that I could actually like take part in. And Kyle goes, "Well, hopefully we already know." And then she tells us if Brandy wants to be friends with all of us girls, this is not the way to go about it. And she tells her that. She's like, "I don't think this would go over well." And Brandy says, "I really thought getting this porn star to come and teach us to do blowjobs would be fun and cute." And Kyle says, "I don't even know if all of us can get together at this point. Like, who's talking to who now?" But Brandy was not at the tea party. So I don't know. Does she know what's going on about all this stuff? Has Taylor confided in her? And I'm assuming so, because I feel like they were starting to get to know each other more than Brandy was with anyone else. And Brandy says, "Maybe we should just throw everything out and get to know each other and not for the bullshit." Brandy, you're right, but you're also... No, that's never going to happen. So now it's the day of the fashion show. They always have this thing where everything's getting set up and then it's like nothing's done and it's like 2 hours before the party and then it's, of course it is always fine. I'm like, can we stop with this trope? Though we're over capacity for this. So then we go to a scene where Russell is telling Taylor that the car is there and they don't want to be late. And he tells her that she looks beautiful. And Taylor tells us, through my therapy, I've realized I've caused a lot of tension between Russell and my friends because I've used them as a sounding board for when things have been difficult. And it's difficult for them to like Russell because of the things that they've heard. Yeah, you're just now realizing it. We're at 2 years at this point. You're telling them that he's abusing you. How are they going to like him? How, like that you thought that they would like him. I don't think they should like him. I'm wondering what your thought process was behind that. So Taylor's like, thank you so much for joining me. It's the way that they're interacting is so strange because like they're being purposefully nice to each other on camera, or if this is like something in therapy that they're working through, it's strange and it's not authentic. And so she's like, thank you so much for joining me. And he's like, yeah, I had a meeting cancel and I know you need the support and we'll have a really good evening. Now let's think back to where we're on episode 13, I think. We didn't see Russell until episode 9. So he knew that she needed support for all these other events. He didn't make the time to go to any of them. Only now, after he knows that the accusations have been thrown out there, is he starting to go to stuff. He hasn't been to one group event yet. He went to a dinner with Kyle and Mauricio, specifically brought them over there to talk about the US Magazine article and say, well, she wants to put stuff out there, then I'll call my litigators and we can have lawsuits. As if a magazine is going to give up their sources just because you file a lawsuit. Give me a fucking break. So now he's like, well, I had a meeting cancel and obviously you need the support, you weak little woman. So I guess I'll show up to show everyone I'm not such a bad guy, is the undertones. So Taylor says, I'm definitely a little bit apprehensive seeing Camille. And he says, try to rise above it tonight and have a good evening. And she's like, yeah, this is Adrienne's night. I don't need any stress. And getting angry is not really my deal. It's not who I am. But when I get hurt, that's the only time I ever get really upset. And with her, I'm more hurt than anything. Russell says, the bottom line is, you didn't start this. You didn't start this. Baby, she's the one who's actually, yeah, she didn't start this. You fucking started it, Russell, by beating the shit out of her. So shut the fuck up. He says, you didn't start this. She has said things that are blatantly false about you and I, and it's not right. Point to me where it's false. Show me the lie. Show me the lie. She's just repeating the shit that Taylor's told you. So if the lie is there, then it's a Taylor lie. And then we have a whole nother can of worms that we have to talk about. Other than that, it's not Camille's fault. It's maybe Camille's fault for putting it on camera, but just because she was so frustrated about the back and forth roller coaster they're on. So now guests are arriving to the fashion show. We're having it at Adrienne's house, by the way, in their backyard. So her backyard is big enough to host a fashion show. If that tells you anything. Brandy arrives. Kevin Hall is the actual fashion designer. Taylor pick up Kyle and Mauricio. Kyle says after the tea party it was awkward seeing Russell, and she'll say things about their marriage and then I'll see them together and it's hard for me to put those two things out of my mind, those things that she said out of my mind. So Kyle is like asking questions and she's like talking about the fashion show and she's like, is this just for shoes? And then she goes, oh, something just dawned on me. Is this the first time that you're seeing Camille? Yes. And so then Kyle says, Taylor's really upset with Camille. I think she's just trying to protect Russell. But Camille was only repeating what Taylor told all of us. And then Mo's like, oh, I don't know the whole story. First of all, this is like where I'm finally realizing that Mo is messy as fuck. He's a messy bitch. So Mauricio's like, I don't know the whole story. And Taylor goes, Like he's trying to get them to talk about it. And Taylor's like, I don't know either. I was just there, you know? The interesting thing is I'm hurt by Camille, but I'm moving past that tonight because I don't want to hurt her business interest, uh, Adrienne's business interest. And Kyle starts jokingly and is like, well, why start now? So they get there. Taylor tells us, I know I'm going to see Camille tonight and I have a lot of anxiety. Really, I just need a break. Baby, if you need a break, stay home. You don't have to be participating in any of this if you don't want to see these people. Kyle meets all of Brandy's friends. They're chatting. Taylor says having Russell at the fashion show was awkward because he normally doesn't show up to things like that. Yeah, we know. He's only showing up to prove how much of a good guy he is in front of everybody. But she says, but I'm hoping that this is his attempt at working on our marriage. Lisa, Ken, and Mohama are literally walking over. I made fun of Adrienne the other day for driving over, but now I'm making fun of them for walking over. It's just like so weird that they live across the street, right? And Lisa tells us after the tea party, Taylor has made a point of reaching out for a friendship. And she wants to support Taylor, and she thinks there's a bigger problem with Camille. So then Adrienne pulls Lisa aside right when they get there. She pulls her into another room, and they're having a heart-to-heart. They're having a heart-to-heart. Can you guess what this is about? Can you even fathom what this is about? This shit is pissing me off. Adrienne is really pissing me off. And she tells Lisa that she's upset and her feelings are hurt because of Vegas. And Lisa goes, Vegas? She's like, yeah, because I know Pandora's party is being there and I wish you would have reached out. And Lisa's like, this is out of left field, basically. She was like, I would never ask you to do that. And Adrienne is like, honey, you can come to me. You know, I would have rolled out the red carpet for you. It just hurts my feelings. And I wish you would have asked me, is there a reason? Asked her to. So what they're specifically speaking about is so Pandora's engagement or bachelorette party is happening at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas instead of at the Palms, which is a casino that's what Adrienne's family owns. So what made her rich, apparently. And what Adrienne is upset about is this would have been an opportunity for the Palms to be on the show. And so she's mad that Lisa didn't come to her and ask if she could host Pandora's bachelorette party there. And this is like, Lisa's kind of like, doesn't know how to respond because she's like, I would never just ask you to do that. And Adrienne's like, you should have come to me. I would have rolled out the red carpet. Why didn't you come to me? And so Lisa's like, well, Robert Earl, who owns Planet Hollywood, is an old friend of mine. And he did Jason's bachelor party, which was not on the show, by the way. And he volunteered to do Pandora's. And of course, if it's free and they're asking, well, why would you not? And Lisa's like, I wouldn't have asked you. Like, that would have made me uncomfortable, to be honest with you, as it would anybody. Like, it would have anybody be like, hey, can you give us like a comped room? I don't know. But basically what Lisa's saying is like, this guy offered this for free and it's going to be really nice and really special for Pandora and the girls. And I wouldn't have come to you to ask you to give me a free room. So am I going to pay for a room or am I going to get one for free? It's kind of like the thing. And Adrienne's like, you've known me a long time. I think the world of you and Pandora. And Lisa's like, well, it's an imposition to ask. And Adrienne goes, well, you've asked for other things. And Lisa's like, I've never asked for anything. And she's like, you've asked to get your wine in our casino. How is that the same for getting a fully comped room? And she's like, I don't want you to feel like you can't ask me those things. And Lisa's like, I didn't want to impose that much. It's 20 girls for 3 days. Next time, and hopefully there won't be a next time. And so she's trying to joke it off, but Adrienne's just getting more and more mad. And she's like, I'm going to be there for the same weekend. And Lisa tells us, she's like, I'm sorry about the bachelorette party. Truly sorry. I do have a lot of dodgy relatives coming in at Christmas. Would you like to host that? So Lisa says, I'm really sorry. And then they start arguing back and forth about how even though Lisa did ask about putting their wine in her casino, Adrienne never put her wine in their casino. And Adrienne goes, I would have preferred if she just said, you know what, you're right. I made a mistake. Next time I'll support you. I know you've supported me, but that wasn't the answer I got because she didn't feel like you were right. She didn't feel like it was proper to ask you to comp a room for 20 women for 3 days. I don't understand why you can't see that. And the reason you can't see that is because the only thing you care about is a business opportunity. And the same thing with these fucking shoes. You actually don't care. You just see this as a business opportunity. Okay, so now Camille arrives and she's excited to go to the fashion show, apprehensive to see Taylor. And she says she's not pleased with Taylor's behavior up until this point. So Camille's apparently in the bathroom. There's a bunch of people in the bathroom, including Adrienne's hair guy. I don't know if he was doing her hair or makeup or what, and Taylor's right outside the door waiting to use it, obviously not knowing that Camille's in there. Again, they have this huge I already talked about the bathroom this season at Adrienne's house because this is the 4th event that Adrienne's hosted at her home. Weird. And it's like an awkward hello and some light chit chat, and then basically Camille is trying to back away and Taylor's like, we're gonna talk later, not tonight. Camille says, I just don't think it's the right sitting and I'd rather just do it one-to-one to us. And then to us, Taylor says, I don't want to have any conflict with Camille. The tensions are way too high at this point. Why do you have conflict with Camille? Because she spilled your secret? That's really the only thing. Now it's time for the actual fashion show. Adrienne is micromanaging everything. And this isn't even your fashion show. This is someone else's fashions. You have a shoe and you're hosting it. That still doesn't give you the right to micromanage. It's really off-putting, and that's really the problem with her and Paul, is that they're micromanaging each other. And it's just not going to work. You know what I mean? Everyone goes to sit down. Camille is sitting next to Brandy, and she tells us that Brandy and her are becoming friends. They've gone through similar things in their lives, and she enjoys her, and that Brandy makes no apologies for who she is. They chat about their kids, and Brandy says, you know, at this point, her and her ex, Eddie, are actually finally starting to get along, and it's taken 2 years to get to this point. Camille says that she doesn't think it's going to work out that way for her and Kelsey because she's never seen Kelsey back down from anyone before. Taylor and Russell are talking to Wendy, which is Kyle and Kim's manager. Like, why are all these people here? And they're talking about Dr. Sophie. And Russell says, yeah, he's fixed our marriage. What? Oh, and then we see Dana in the background. Like, Dana has totally disappeared. She's been at all these places and we just don't see her anymore. It was so strange. Like, she was at the spa day. She was at something else, and now she's here, and you wouldn't have known she was at the spa day. She was just in the background, never had one conversation with anybody. Fashion show has started, and a lot of people are saying, where are the shoes? I thought this was for shoes. Every single one of the women is in long dresses. And so Lisa says that the whole point of the fashion show was about the shoes, and everyone is wearing long dresses. We can't see the shoes, the Maloof hoof. That's going to come back to bite her. Kyle says, I'm so excited to see Adrienne's line. I'm expecting them to be gorgeous because she's got beautiful shoes, but where are the shoes? Then Adrienne does an outfit change prior to walking out at the end. You know how they always walk out at the end? Why was that necessary? It's about the shoes. And she wears a long dress so you can't even see her shoes. She tells the fashion show producer that she didn't want the fashion show to be about her shoes. What was she wanted it to be about the charity. So she wasn't trying to put it in people's face. Like, she felt weird. She didn't want it to steal attention from the main focus, which was raising money for the charity. I don't know. These people are so ridiculous. So then we go to commercial break, and Lisa and Taylor are talking, and she asks Taylor if she's spoken to Camille, and she says, not tonight. And then Lisa's like, have you been civil? And she's like, well, I tried to go to the ladies' room and she came out. So then I guess Kyle was there and she asked Lisa what Adrienne said to her. And was like, I was shocked because I had only just come through the door. And she said that she was offended that I didn't do Pandora's bachelorette party at the Palms. And I didn't think she'd be offended because one of my old friends, Robert, has offered to host it because he's known Pandora since she's a little girl and he'd already done Jason's. And I don't know if she wanted the publicity or what she did, something for the Palms. I was just shocked. And I told her that it would be an imposition of me to ask. And, would you go to her and ask her to host Pandora's bachelorette party? Kyle says, well, we talked about this and I told her that you were probably uncomfortable asking. Because remember, Adrienne brought this up at Kennedy's birthday party last week. That was like out of nowhere. She brought this up about like they were talking about something totally different. And then Adrienne goes, and you know what I'm mad at? Lisa, babe, we know we've seen all your confessionals up until this point. You hate her. It seems like. So Kyle says, I told her that you would be uncomfortable asking for something like that, but she doesn't think that you would be. And Lisa says, lately, I don't know if Adrienne is under some kind of pressure, but she always seems to be having a go at me. First, it was about my sense of humor. Now it's about the bachelorette party. I can't seem to do anything right. But then she does. And Lisa's a little wrong in this because again, she could have just been the victim, but then she starts talking to everybody and she says, if my name was Maloof, I would call it the Maloof hoof. And then she comes back into a confessional. I actually think about this all the time. I think this is so funny. She goes, watch out, Maloof hoof. The Vanderpump is on its way to kick your ass. The Vanderpump and the Maloof hoof have to be some of the funniest shit, and this is why people love Lisa Vanderpump. Like, this is it. She's just funny. She's funny. She doesn't take things so seriously. Adrienne is gonna take this so seriously and blow it out of the proportion at the reunion, and you just know it. She's never gonna let the Maloof hoof go. She's making a rhyme. Get over it. Your last name is Maloof. Like, it is what it is. But that's the end of the episode. And a nice light one. I can't be mad about it. But thank you so much for listening. As always, keep joy alive in your heart. And if Housewives bring you joy, then keep watching them. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.